Hey everybody, happy Istio Day. My name is Rob, and if you want to get some help with Istio, I want you to get it. I have a lot to say, so this is going to go really fast. It will be tricky to take pictures of slides. There will be a link at the end. This is me. I still suffer from this condition, but don't worry, you do get used to it. I have been an Istio user for 7 years, and my day job is to do Istio training, among other things. Between workshops and my involvement in the Istio community, I have answered a few Istio questions. I am not in the top spot, but I am on the leaderboard, which puts me in a good position to help you improve your chances of getting your questions answered. Now, before we get to the main point, I need to get one obvious thing out of the way. If you are having an Istio emergency, if production is down, if your CTO's hair is on fire, you should hire someone to help you. There are lots of people whose day job is to provide commercial Istio expertise. Go have a look at the sponsor list if you want inspiration. Any one of them would be very happy to take your money and help you put out your Istio fires. Okay, thank you, Captain Obvious. From here on out, we're going to assume that you are not currently having an Istio emergency, you just have a question. If you still need help, that's great. There are lots of people who want to help if they can. The problem is that most of those people do have jobs. So what can we do to improve your chances of getting a busy person who has a boss who's asking them to do a million things, take a minute out of their day to help you with your Istio question? There's a few things we can do. We can ask for help in the right place, in a way that makes it easy to respond, and avoid some common slip-ups that make it harder for people to provide answers. So we'll start with where to ask. The CNCF, they got themselves a Slack. That Slack has an Istio channel, and that Istio channel has thousands of Istio users in it. But it does not have much in the way of Istio community members or developers. I don't look in here very often, but when I do, usually what I see are unanswered questions. You may have some luck there, but there are better places to ask, such as the Istio Slack. It also has lots of users, plus you will find the Istio maintainers and core community members are present. The quality of the discourse there is generally very high. You'll find the round trip time to be pretty fast. The biggest downside is that because it's a free Slack, the search is pretty limited. Another place that people will go to ask their Istio questions is Stack Overflow. It kind of makes sense because there are tens of thousands of Kubernetes questions on Stack Overflow, and so maybe it's a good place to ask your Istio question. But there's nowhere near the same volume of Istio questions as you'll find Kubernetes questions. The Stack Overflow search is very good. The quality of the discourse is kind of middle of the road, and the round trip time is slow. So for those reasons, I do not recommend taking your Istio questions to Stack Overflow. Now, Istio did have an official forum for a long time. Spammers ruined it. Don't go there. It's going away. Instead, you should go to the Istio GitHub discussions. The search quality is good enough. The quality of the discourse is excellent, and the round trip time is faster than Stack Overflow and Reddit. So I strongly recommend asking your Istio questions there. As I just mentioned, there is an Istio subreddit. There are Istio community members on the moderation team, which means that the bullshit tolerance is real low. Quality there is better than Stack Overflow, and the biggest downside is that there is a slow round trip time, and Reddit's got a pretty crappy search. So, key takeaway. I would recommend starting in one of these two places with your questions. All right, now how to ask. Once you've decided where you're going to ask, what are you going to do? There's a couple of key things you can do to improve the chances of getting your question answered. First key, understand the community you are asking. And by understand the community, I mean learn how they interact, what are their conventions, that sort of thing. I'll give you a few examples. This is not an exhaustive list. Start with GitHub. Communities on GitHub have certain conventions and expectations. Engaging in GitHub happens mostly in either an issue or a discussion. This is a simple rule of thumb to help you decide which one is appropriate for your current situation. And on GitHub, it's expected that when someone is uncertain about some behavior, they'll start a discussion and ask for clarification. A discussion on GitHub can be turned into an issue later. So starting with a discussion is the best way to get help from community members who are expecting questions. If you start with an issue, you are more likely to run into a maintainer who is expecting to triage defects. And so if you are certain that you found a defect, by all means, this is the way to go. But I'll offer 2 notes here. One, you will definitely get more traction on your defect if you can reproduce it on the latest stable release of Istio. And 2, with Istio in particular, it can be tricky to be 100% certain you've found a defect. One example right here, not all Istio 503 codes are created equal. In fact, it's very easy to be misled into believing that there's a defect when in fact it is working as intended. If you're not sure what I mean, type these words into your nearest search engine, and I'll offer a tip of my hat to Mr. Stoney for his excellent blog posts. There are some things that are not expected on GitHub. One in particular seems to happen more often than we would like, and that is commenting on an existing issue when you're not 100% sure that you're actually having the same problem as the person who originally reported it, particularly when the issue has been closed for over 5 years. Issues are free. Just open a new issue, and if you believe some other issue is related, you can link them. Okay, what about Slack community? What conventions are expected there? It's expected that users will choose an appropriate channel for the topic they want to discuss. If there's a better place for the topic, someone will generally gently nudge you into the right channel. When in doubt, general is a good place to start. There are a handful of things that are not expected by community members in Slack, such as asking the same question in multiple channels without waiting for an answer. Or private messaging someone without asking them first. There's nothing wrong with private messages, very common, but it's expected to ask permission first. And what you may find is that community members, when you ask them if you can private message them, may turn you down. The reason being that they prefer to have these conversations in the open so that other users who come in later want to find those same answers, they can find them with a search because private messages don't show up in search results. Okay, Reddit community. What are the conventions there? On Reddit, it is customary to insult people and then accuse them of being racist, followed by going to bed angry. I'm kidding. Please be nice. For best results in any of these communities, try to get a sense of how the community you're interacting with engages and engage them on those terms. Second key, understand the mechanics of the platform itself. That is how it works. There are too many subtleties to go in here, but I want to highlight 2 of them. First is formatting. Look at this YAML. Look at how beautiful that is. Do you have any idea how tedious it is to do syntax highlighting in Google Slides? I did that for you. You're welcome. Understanding how formatting works on your GitHub issue will make your post much easier to read. The same thing applies to Slack, and the same goes for Reddit. And spoiler on Reddit, it has nothing to do with backticks. Now, I'm not saying that you have to learn the mechanics of every single collaboration tool out there, but getting the formatting right goes a very long way to getting your question answered. It's really hard to read a manifest that looks like that. And on Reddit specifically, the Istio subreddit mod team requests users who have any more than like a couple of lines of logs or 1 or 2 simple YAMLs to put the question in the body of the post and then put the supplementary material in a comment just to make it easier to parse. Of course, if you don't care about any of these things, you don't want to learn that stuff, just open a gist, link your gist. Bypass this problem altogether. Another thing about platforms, a tool that's available, threads. Slack's got threads, Reddit's got threads. Use the threads. Just helps organize discussion, makes it easier to keep track of things. So a little proficiency with the collaboration tool goes a long way to getting you the answers you need. Third key, ask good questions. What do I mean by good? Well, fortunately, I don't have to define that because Julia Evans is a person who exists in the world, and she has blessed us with her wisdom. I won't restate everything in this post, but I want to highlight a couple of things. Here is a question. Julia Evans suggests that to make a question better, you should state what you already know. Stating what you know up front can reduce the number of round trips required and follow-up questions to get your answers more quickly. Another pro suggestion from Julia is asking a question where the answer is a fact. Now, this one is not always possible. Sometimes you have open-ended questions, but if you can phrase your question in a way that the answer is a fact, it's a very good way to get a fast answer. There's a lot of good, other good advice in this post, so I strongly recommend reading the whole thing. Here's another underrated suggestion. This came from one of the Istio maintainers who helped me prepare this talk. State what you've tried. It's another great strategy for reducing the number of round trips and follow-up questions to get you your answers. Also, here is a little piece of conversational judo for you. You can turn it around. Question reframe. The answer to the first question are steps. It gives you a procedure, but steps don't always improve your understanding. The answer to the second question is explanatory. If you get the answer to that question, it often includes underlying principles and expected behavior. If you know the answer to the second question, you can work out the answer to the first question. Okay, there are the 3 keys to asking good questions. Now let's talk about things to avoid. I'm going to talk about 2 things that people do a lot, which make it very challenging to answer their questions. Now this is true. I do love you. I've just been waiting for the right moment to say it. But now is not the time. Now is the time to talk about extreme redacting. Here are a couple of Istio manifests. These are the kind of things that a person might need to share when they're asking a question about Istio. And these manifests are going to contain things like host names, maybe internal project names, maybe IP addresses for your networks. It is very common for people to want to remove these things before sharing manifests when they ask Istio questions. For example, it is absolutely critical that those 2 fields are identical. So whoever is looking at your redacted YAML now has to ask follow-up questions. Are the original values the same? Are you sure? Is there any chance there's a typo? If your eyes missed a typo when you were typing, now I can't add a second set of eyes to help you. And these ones don't need to be this identical, but they do need to be compatible, which is an even more complex set of follow-up questions. Even worse than redaction is when the values in the critical fields are replaced with placeholders. If I notice 2 things don't match, is it because there was a typo in the original YAML, or did the error happen during redaction? Now, I'm not saying you should do this. I have seen this more than once. Don't do this, but don't go overboard. Find and replace is your friend. Okay, thing number 2, last thing. One of the reasons that people adopt Istio is it has the ability to plug into many other technologies. Thing number 2 to avoid when asking questions is to assume that Istio expertise equates to expertise in whatever other thing you're trying to integrate with. Everyone's familiar with this image. This little circle right here is where the Istio community has expertise. This section here is an indicator of all the things that I don't understand, and it's not an exhaustive list. I'm not an expert in most of these things. If I've never used the tool that you're integrating with Istio, I don't know what this error message means when you say, I'm running this command and it doesn't work. Translating the specifics of whatever project you're working in into general terms will greatly improve your chances of getting help with your Istio integration. So, there we go. Ask in the right place, ask a good question, try to avoid common missteps. My name is Rob. That's how you're going to get the help you need. Here's the link to the slides I promised you.